Cowboys Packers on Sunday. Happy birthday to Big Mike McCarthy, 59 years old today. Michael, going into this week, what's been the feeling you've gathered from Mike McCarthy as he's about to embark on his reunion with Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers on Sunday?
I think my main impression is that Green Bay is and always will be a special place to him. It's not just where he coached, and this is something that I asked him about on Monday during a press conference, and the emotion in his voice when he answered. The people there in Green Bay, that means something to him. It means something to his children, to his wife Jessica, who's originally from there, and he's spending his birthday tonight alone. He said, at least no family, because they're already up north for the reunion with old friends and family members. So it's a special time. And so as much as in a lot of ways it is just any other game in terms of you got the Packers and you got kickoff, and it's another game in the schedule that you're trying to win. That's what this week's about, just like any week, winning. But you heard it, I think, in Mike McCarthy's voice, and there's also 9 other staff members on his coaching staff who have some sort of Green Bay tie, or as a player or as a coach. So yeah, this week is different.
Following up on that, you're actually leading me down the path I was going to ask you about. I was up there with you yesterday, and I was looking around the room, and I was thinking about the different players who had never played at Lambeau, but J-Ron Kurtz has, because he was playing with the Vikings back then. And then I was thinking about Tyler Biadasz. He's from Wisconsin. Jake Ferguson's from Wisconsin, but he's not a fan of the Packers. And I was thinking about those assistant coaches. Now, you're talking about Mike McCarthy. Have you had a chance to visit with any of the McCarthy said there's about 10 of them down here in Dallas, Fort Worth, that have ties to Green Bay. Have you heard from any of those guys and what they may be thinking about going back?
I haven't spoken to them directly. I've spoken to some of the players in their rooms, and there's a lot of them. Yeah, we go down the list. Al Harris, the TV coach, just the head coach, Rob Davis, Joey Jr., the defensive pass game. We have Joe Philbin, Jeff Blasco, Scott Solzine, Scott McCurley, Ryan Feeder. I mean, it's Arena Stewart. Don't want to forget about the assistant special teams coach. A lot of guys here in this Cowboys organization who are returning to Green Bay. And I actually was talking to Tyler Biadasz about it today. And it's kind of funny. Biadasz, I wasn't aware of this. He was a Packers fan growing up, which isn't a surprise. He's from Amherst, Wisconsin, about a 90-minute drive less than from Lambeau Field. But 1 year as a kid, he dressed up as Al Harris for Halloween.
Oh, my God, with the braids?
Yeah, I'll leave Tyler to talk about it. But yeah, it was.
That's funny.
I think it's kind of cool. So you can kind of feel the connection with this game. It means something to a lot of guys. At the same time, Biadasz was the first to say, just like any other week, it doesn't affect what we have to do in the game, and that's win.
Michael, as someone who's covered this league and has seen a lot in this league, could you ever imagine getting to a point where you're about to cover a game between the Cowboys and the Packers where Aaron Rodgers and his team has lost 5 games in a row with him being healthy and them staring down the barrel of possibly losing 6 games in a row? It's hard for me to fathom that that's where we are, but that's exactly the scenario that the Packers are facing as the Cowboys this weekend.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to believe. It's funny. When I covered the Chargers in San Diego, there was a year where Phillip Rivers struggled, and he struggled behind a bad offensive line. He struggled with some questionable receivers, and then the head coach, Norv Turner, he was replaced with Mike McCoy. There were some pieces added, and Phillip Rivers played better, and he ended up being comeback player of the year. And that award never really sat well with Phillip, because he's like, I never got injured. I'm performing better. But I think it just underscored how, with a different setting, with different protection or different receivers, if you take it away, a guy who seems special is suddenly less special, and if you give it back, suddenly seems correct. And so I haven't watched the Packers super closely, and I'm sure there's a lot going on that goes beyond Aaron Rodgers. Often I think the quarterback, when you're talking about an elite quarterback, if he's not producing, it's kind of like a kitchen sink that isn't working. Yeah, the problem probably isn't the faucet; it's the plumbing. And so if you think about the quarterback as where the production's coming and where you most see it, I think the first thing you see is the quarterback throwing the football around the field. But if it's not happening, like it isn't for Aaron Rodgers, there's probably some extenuating circumstances that go beyond the quarterback play. And losing Devontae Adams is the first that jumps out.
Speaking of quarterback play, at the Star on Thursdays, it is Dak Media Day. I'm sure you were there for the scrum. Can you give us some of the things that you took out of his conversations about going back to Green Bay, where he probably had his biggest victory as a rookie quarterback?
Oh, gracious. I think you both have seen me in the locker room, and so this probably is not a surprise. I don't mean to romanticize my approach, but my approach is my approach. I sometimes make a decision to skip certain press conferences because it's my personal philosophy as a reporter. I find more value in having a one-on-one conversation with a guy than being one of 20 in a crowd. And so I think during that I was talking to Dalton Schultz, or I was talking to Tyler Biadasz, or I was talking to Terrence Steele. I think I was doing other things.
Me and you both. Colleague, that's what we normally do, right? It's like when I know CD's talking, I'm like, okay, let me talk to some of the other guys.
Yeah, so I'm sure Dak was fantastic, and I have the audio, or I can go back and look. I haven't had a chance to do so, but I had a respect for you guys and your listeners. I'd be talking out of my rear if I pretended to know.
We appreciate the transparency.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, let's stay on that side of the football. Obviously, the big conversation this week after all the rumors and all the things and speculation surrounding Odell Beckham Jr. and his flirtation and the Cowboys reciprocating that possible flirtation with him. How does Odell Beckham Jr. help this team? And is this something that, in your experience, you feel like the Cowboys are willing to get done to possibly put them in that conversation with the top two teams in the NFC or overall maybe in the NFL?
I don't think there's a doubt that the Cowboys are willing to get it done, but just like anything else, it's more a question of how willing are they to get it done. What are the demands that Odell Beckham Jr. has, not just in terms of financial elements of his contract, but contract structure? Is it a 1-year deal? Is it a 2-year deal? If it's a 2-year deal, what does that second year look like? It's a lot more attractive for an NFL team to sign a player like Odell Beckham Jr. to a 1-year contract, because if he balls out and really just heightens his value, builds himself a free agent market for next March, you've got two options as a team. You can either resign him and give him that long-term home that he seeks, or for whatever reason, he moves on in another direction. Now he's a compensatory free agent because his contract expires in March as opposed to you releasing him, which you would do in a 2-year contract if it's a 1-year arrangement. So he would, if he's a compensatory free agent, his contract expires in March, he signs someplace else. Now the Cowboys are potentially getting a 4th-round pick, 5th-round pick back for Odell Beckham. So he helped them in the short term and then get a draft pick with his departure. So for the Cowboys, a 1-year contract is really attractive. And you just hope from there that the situation works out. But certainly understandable if Beckham wants a multi-year deal, as it seems from his camp he does. Based on his comments publicly, it seems that he does. And there's a medical component to this too. Where's that knee coming off the ACL? So I don't think it's a simple thing, but once that trade deadline passed, I remember thinking, okay, well now it's onto Odell Beckham Jr. because the Cowboys clearly wanted to do something at wide receiver. They couldn't find something that made sense for them, something that they were comfortable with, and they knew all along that Beckham was a top guy available in the market.
If you were to speculate, and that's what we're doing right now, when would you think he might be available after he goes through his medicals and visits all the different teams? And what would be the ramp-up period? I mean, we're just spitballing.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say exactly. I mean, let's assume that he passes his physical and the ECL is, he's confident in planting on it laterally, and he's ready to go from that sense. There is a ramp-up period for any player, especially one who hasn't played football for several months. So I don't think you would see him if he signs on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. It's less about the mental part of getting ready. I think it's just the physical, or making sure this is a guy who truly is going to be there for you in the stretch run. I don't think it'll take as long as, say, Jason Peters is taking, just because he's 40 years old, came in, a little heavy, and just getting him right. But for Odell Beckham Jr., who's far younger and spry, I would say, a couple weeks, get him going. That would probably be about right, and it might not even take that long, but I think that would probably be a fair way to kind of project it.
Michael Gehlken of the Dallas Morning News joining us right here on the Get Right with Reggie KG on 105 to the Fan via the Diamond Factory Hotline. Let's turn our attention to this weekend's matchup between the Cowboys and the Packers. This Cowboys defense has been really good, a top 5 scoring defense, leading the NFL in sacks. What do they need to do on Sunday versus an Aaron Rodgers offense that's struggling to be able to walk out of Green Bay with a win?
Stop the run. You got to stop the run, and they know it. I wrote this in today's Dallas Morning News. They know it. On Monday, Dan Quinn delivered a message to the defense in a meeting, and as it was explained to me by several inside the room, he kind of broke down, certain percentage ranks of a defense in terms of your top 1% defense. You're in that elite level, but there's a level above that. And that's the level that he believes that the Cowboys group this year can reach. It's 0.01%, the upper echelon of NFL defensive play. And in order to, everyone knows what that looks like. You think about the great defenses; they're the ones that just stifle an opponent, across all phases of offense. They force turnovers, they score themselves. They dominate. And in order to reach that level, you have to stop the run. You have to stop the run certainly better than the Cowboys have stopped the run this season. It's part of the reason. It is the reason why they acquired Jonathan Hankins a week before the trade deadline. They know they need to get better there, and they get stronger up front, and he can help them. So that's it. It's a challenge that to a man, every defender on this Cowboys roster, certainly everyone that I've spoken to, they understand it, and they believe they can go from being a great defense to the defense, to that defense. There's a mentality there. There's a respect there that they are looking to earn. But yeah, they're not resting their laurels on being, the best defense in the league. They think they've already established that. They've already earned that. But being a truly special defense, or a memorably great championship caliber level defense, that's what they're chasing, and they know they got to stop the run, and that, yes, starts Sunday.